On the 23rd of October, 2019, a distressing news story shocked the world, uncovering the grim reality of the despicable economy of modern slavery.
Of 39 migrants.
Behind the manslaughter of 39 people found dead last week in the back of a refrigerated truck outside of London.
The discovery of 39 Vietnamese migrants found dead inside a refrigerated truck in Essex, United Kingdom. According to reports, the migrants were tightly packed into an airtight container for approximately 12 hours. While the container, originally intended for transporting refrigerated goods, combined with a lack of proper ventilation and inadequate living conditions, resulted in a devastating outcome for the migrants trapped inside. The news of this harrowing event reverberated across the globe, capturing international attention and exposing the depths of human vulnerability and exploitation. It confronted us with the inconvenient truth that modern slavery is not a relic of the past, but an ongoing reality that stains our present. It shattered the illusion that all forms of enslavement had been abolished, highlighting the urgent need to confront the economic underpinnings that enable and sustain such inhumane practices. The tragic deaths of these 39 Vietnamese migrants represent just one horrifying instance in a larger pattern of modern slavery that continues to plague our world. According to statistics from the International Labor Organization, or ILO, an estimated 49.6 million people are trapped in modern slavery on any given day, which is roughly 6 individuals for every 1,000 people. To know more details on the report made by the ILO, you can refer to the link in the video description. These victims, like countless others, were forced into labor-intensive industries such as agriculture, manufacturing, construction, and the sex trade, where they endured immense suffering while generating profits for their captors. This economy relies on exploiting the most vulnerable individuals, trapping them in cycles of abuse, forced labor, and deprivation. It preys upon those who are marginalized by poverty, lack of education, political instability, or discrimination, exploiting their desperation for economic opportunity and a better life. In the vast global landscape of trade and economic progress, there exists a disturbing and hidden truth, known as modern slavery. This dark practice continues to thrive, quietly exploiting millions of people around the world. Behind this abhorrent phenomenon lies a deeply unsettling reality, where the pursuit of profit can intersect with the exploitation of vulnerable individuals in the most sinister ways. Modern slavery, also known as human trafficking, is a severe violation of human rights that occurs worldwide. It involves the exploitation and control of individuals through force, fraud, or deception for various purposes such as forced labor and sexual exploitation. Unlike historical slavery, modern slavery is characterized by hidden and complex forms of exploitation. Victims of modern slavery endure physical and psychological abuse, restricted freedom, and violations of their basic human rights. In some cases, they may receive meager wages or promises of fair payment that are ultimately denied, while in other instances, they may not receive any payment at all. Modern slavery thrives in situations where individuals are vulnerable due to poverty, lack of education, political instability, armed conflict, or discrimination. Slavery as a practice has a long and dark history that spans across civilizations and continents. The roots of slavery can be traced back to ancient civilizations, where servitude and forced labor were widespread. However, it was during the transatlantic slave trade, which lasted from the 16th to the 19th century, that slavery reached unprecedented proportions. This extensive trade network involved the forced transportation of millions of Africans to the Americas, where they were subjected to brutal and dehumanizing conditions. Abolition movements emerged in the 18th and 19th centuries, leading to significant milestones in the fight against slavery. In 1807, the British Parliament passed the Abolition of the Slave Trade Act, banning the transatlantic slave trade. And later, the Emancipation Proclamation, issued by President Abraham Lincoln of the United States in 1863, marked significant steps towards the eradication of legal slavery. However, the end of legal slavery did not eradicate this practice entirely. Instead, it transformed into newer and more insidious forms. The transition from traditional to modern forms of slavery occurred alongside industrialization and the growth of global trade. The demand for cheap labor to fuel industrial production fueled the rise of new forms of exploitation and human trafficking, making it even more challenging to detect and combat slavery. With the way our world is interconnected and globalized, supply chains can become a tangled web where unethical individuals take advantage of forced labor to make a quick buck. Oh, and let's not forget about our never-ending hunger for cheap products and services. This constant demand fuels a cycle of exploitation and oppression as dishonest actors seek to meet our desires at any cost. Modern slavery thrives due to a complex interplay of economic factors that drive and sustain this reprehensible practice, such as the cocoa industry in West Africa, particularly in countries like Ivory Coast and Ghana, have come under scrutiny for its connection to modern slavery. The demand for cocoa, a key ingredient in chocolate production, has led to instances of child labor and forced labor in these regions. The global demand for these products often creates a lucrative market where dishonest individuals take advantage of vulnerable workers, subjecting them to harsh conditions and minimal, or more likely, no pay. Modern slavery generates staggering profits on a global scale. According to the ILO, this despicable practice results in an estimated annual profit of around $150 billion worldwide. Such illicit gains from forced labor and human trafficking make modern slavery one of the most profitable criminal activities globally. For example, the textile and garment manufacturing industries are major contributors to modern slavery. Sweatshops and factories employing forced labor to produce clothing and textiles for global supply chains. Unethical subcontracting practices worsen exploitative working conditions, as subcontractors operate with little oversight. The insatiable appetite for fast fashion and inexpensive clothing further fuels the demand for cheap labor, enabling the exploitation of more vulnerable individuals. Countries such as Bangladesh, India, and even the world's second-largest economy, China, have also been associated with instances of modern slavery within the textile and garment manufacturing sector, further raising concerns about the Made in China label. Weak labor regulations, low wages, and poor working conditions have made these regions susceptible to the prevalence of forced labor and exploitative practice. In the Middle East, ultra-wealthy countries such as Qatar and the UAE have also faced scrutiny for the treatment of migrant workers involved in large-scale construction projects, particularly ones in preparation for major sporting events like the FIFA World Cup. These projects have raised concerns about the exploitation of migrant workers, including the confiscation of passports, non-payment of wages, and poor living conditions. An event that had generated profits reaching billions of dollars, but was tainted by exploitative practices. On the supply side, there are several factors that make individuals susceptible to modern slavery. Lack of education and skills development opportunities leave many people with limited options for employment. Additionally, political instability, armed conflict, and displacement create environments where exploitation thrives, because individuals are uprooted from their homes and left without the necessary protections and support systems. Modern slavery knows no borders, affecting countries and populations worldwide. Some regions and countries have reported higher incidences of modern slavery than others. Furthermore, vulnerable populations are particularly at risk of falling victim to modern slavery. Indigenous populations, women and girls, refugees, and displaced persons also face heightened risks of being ensnared in modern slavery. Efforts to combat modern slavery must involve collaboration between governments, civil society organizations, and businesses. It is essential to establish robust legal frameworks that criminalize modern slavery and enforce strict penalties for its perpetrators. Strengthening supply chain transparency and accountability mechanisms is crucial to identify and eliminate exploitative practices. Ethical consumerism plays a significant role in driving change, as consumers have the power to support businesses that uphold human rights and reject those involved in modern slavery. Educational programs and campaigns also play a crucial role in raising awareness among communities, vulnerable populations, and potential victims. By disseminating information about the signs of modern slavery, individuals are empowered to recognize and report such cases. Ethical businesses that prioritize supply chain transparency should also be supported by empowering consumers to make informed purchasing decisions. By driving the demand for slavery-free products and services, individuals can contribute to the fight against modern slavery. Furthermore, it is important for companies to fulfill their responsibility by embracing ethical practices and conducting extensive evaluations of their supply chains. As society reflects on the deplorable economics of modern slavery, it becomes clear that the fight against this horrific practice is far from over. Every story, every statistic, and every victim's experience urges people to take action and stand united against exploitation and oppression. Together, we can break the chains that bind individuals, communities, and societies, and create a future that's free from the darkness of modern slavery.